there was one time, and I'm thinking this is what I was taught in school, was that Māori culture was going to die. If anything, we've gotten stronger and will continue to be strong with keeping our culture alive.
Welcome to TBH with Vitra. That's short for Travel Beyond Home. I'm your host, Vitra. I created this podcast with a simple but bold goal: to speak with one woman from every country in the world. That's because, like many of you, I'm in a season of life where traveling wherever and whenever I want just isn't possible. Still, I'm curious about other cultures, countries, and people. This podcast is a way to bring the world to you, one country at a time. Through honest and curious conversations with locals, we go beyond bucket lists and into real life. The traditions they grew up with, the cultural norms you know only by living there, as well as advice on how we can all be more respectful visitors. Whether you're traveling right now or exploring from the internet, this is a space for you. Today, we're traveling to New Zealand, an island nation in the southwestern Pacific Ocean with a population of just over 5 million people. It's made up of two main islands, the North Island and the South Island. Also known as Aotearoa by locals and its native Maori people, New Zealand's culture reflects both its indigenous heritage and its European history woven into everyday life. And to give us a window into life in New Zealand, I am joined by Arohanoa Mathews, a Tauranga-based contemporary Maori artist. Her heritage spans Maori, French, English, Scottish, and Danish roots, and she spent over 30 years as a painter, educator, and iwi arts advocate. As the Maori arts navigator at Creative Bay of Plenty, she supports and connects Maori artists across Tauranga Moana, building collaboration, cultural leadership, and creative growth. Her work beautifully bridges Maori knowledge with contemporary expression. Through her paintings and her leadership, she celebrates Whakapapa, which is genealogy, Te Taio, the natural world, and authentic storytelling grounded in her identity as a Mana Whenua, or people of the land, artist. You can follow her on Instagram at Hono Collection and also Arohanoa_artistry. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so sorry if I pronounced any of that incorrectly.
Tuatahi, tēnā koe Vitra. Thank you for having me on here, and your pronunciation is pretty right. It's pretty good, actually. So thank you for having me and your lovely introduction. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Okay, so we're going to start off with a little bit of fun, just to break the ice a little bit and to get to know you. So
Sure.
I've got a clock, and I'm going to put 3 minutes on it, and I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions back to back. Okay, what's your favorite thing about being a New Zealander?
We are unique, and we have a lot of history and culture that I'm very, very proud of.
What's a local slang one hears many times throughout the day?
Kia ora. Kia ora is one. It's not a slang, but it is our cultural greeting, quite an informal one that a lot of people have learnt and being able to comfortably say. So kia ora, but also another one that's a bit of a slang is neck minute. So things change. I don't know if you've heard of that before. It's basically something else is about to happen. So neck minute.
Does New Zealand have a national dish?
We do. We have quite a few. New Zealand, we have claimed the pavlova, and I think Australia has also claimed that. And our kiwi fruit is not a dish, but it's a fruit, and I know that it's also an Asian delicacy. But another dish would be the hangi. Our hangi is cooked under the earth, and it's specific to our Māori delicacies too.
What's one thing people abroad get wrong about New Zealand?
I think they think it's just all about performance in the haka. Our tourisms highlight our cultural and traditional dancing. So haka is one of them, and I think it's not to say that it's wrong, but there's more to our culture than our performances. I suppose we live in our arts, if that makes sense. It's not a hobby, it's our life, where our dancing, our haka, is all derived from our moteatea, which is our chants, very, very historical, very traditional chants, which talks about whakapapa, it talks about genealogy, it talks about relationships and events that happened in the past. So, yeah, I think that people just don't realize what our culture is built on. It's built on values and, yeah, foundations that are a lot more than the tourist stuff that people see all the time.
What is your most memorable travel experience within New Zealand?
It was when I was 14, and that came up just straight away because, there's a saying that you don't even get to see your own backyard. People go travel overseas and don't even look at their own backyard. And I was 14, and it was a family affair with the parents, and we traveled from the top of New Zealand all the way down to the bottom. And boy, it was a memorable time because we were all stuck in a car for weeks. But it was really cool to see different parts of Aotearoa because, you know, you need to be really specific on where you want to go because if you go down south, it's cold. There's mountains, snow, etc. If you go up north, there's beautiful beaches and water.
What is a cultural norm where you live that most countries don't have? That's our last one.
Yeah, there we go. What's a cultural norm?
That you have in New Zealand that most countries don't have.
Yeah. I was going to say a marae, but I think other countries do have a similar meeting house or a type of communal area.
Mm.
Um, Jeepers, I don't know, cultural norm. I'll come back to that.
We can think about that one and do that one at the
Yeah,
end.
thank you so much. I tried. I tried.
Thanks for playing. Thanks for playing along. That's not always the easiest.
No, that's awesome. Good questions.
Okay, your bio mentions Maori, French, English, Scottish, and Danish roots. Can you tell us more about your heritage and your cultural background?
Ai, tuatahi, ka mihi atu kia koe, Vitra, mō te kaupapa nui i tēnei rā. He uri ahau no tauranga moana, ko mauau te maunga, ko tauranga te moana, ko mātātua me takitimu ngā waka. Ai, i te taho tōku whaia, yeah, ko whareroa hungahunga tōrua waikari ngā marae. I just want to mihi to you for today's kaupapa in my language around our culture, Māori culture here on my mum's side. So that was my mum's side. My mum's Māori. She's from Tauranga Moana. And yeah, part of who I am, which includes the French, the Māori, English, Scottish, Danish, have all intermarried into our Māori side. And my ancestors were all traders here in Tauranga and also Maketu. So my mum, I just wanted to, acknowledge my mother, who's Māori. My father is a Kiwi. He's a Pākehā. He actually refers to himself as Pākehā. And I have a lot of different types of ethnicities because we are all intermarried into my Māori ancestors. So very, very proud of all of my ethnic mix.
In the beginning, when you were speaking Māori, what were you saying? I thought it was beautiful, but it kind of got lost on me.
Yeah, so just exactly what I just said in English, pretty much.
Okay.
It's just acknowledging my mum's side, where we're from here in Tauranga, my marae, my waka, so te taiao in its holistic form. I'm acknowledging firstly the land and where I am. So Mauao is our mountain. It's an iconic land, an icon for people who want to come to Mount Maunganui, Tauranga, and also, acknowledging our waka that our ancestors travelled here from, probably Polynesia, and yeah, that was really a mihi. It's called a mihi. So I'm actually acknowledging you and this kaupapa and my mum's side, which includes all of those ethnicities.
That's very different.
Yeah, and that's really important to us because for Māori people, you don't go, "Who are you?" You go, "Where are you from?" It makes sense to us. You don't. It's not about self and ego, about who you are. It's really about where do you come from? Who is your line before you? because then they can make connections to other people, other communities, other events, rather than it being purely yourself.
For someone who knows nothing about Maori culture, how would you explain it to them?
Yeah, Maori people are the indigenous people of Aotearoa. What does that mean? We're the first to be here, derived from Polynesia. We came from navigators, very, very knowledgeable ancestors who were navigating the waters before science was even around, in the Western sense. With Māori culture, I suppose we've had a lot of loss, being colonised, where our values were quite different to the Western values. And being a minority, where we were a majority back then, but became a minority, where our language was not allowed to be spoken. Our land, if anything, it was more our land that was confiscated. Yeah, everything that we knew and know about the environment, about the seasons, about reaping and sowing, our foods and resources, all that was taken. It wasn't valued. They wanted to control how we lived. So to me, Māori culture sits on a lot of history of our own understanding of the environment. Does that make sense?
It does. And just leading, on from that question, can you tell us a little bit about how Maori culture shows up in your life? It seems from, the first question, honoring your mom's ancestors and your mom's line, that it is a part of something that informs all your actions.
I believe our Māori culture traditionally and also now is built on connection, built on relationships. And even if it's within your family, your wider community, to the land, our connection to the land and to our ancestors. And like you said, my acknowledgement to my mum and my ancestors in my beginning, kōrero, my conversation with you started with them, and that's because I'm here because of them. That's the main thing. And so, although we're assimilated into Western ways, I can live in both worlds quite comfortably. For me, Māori culture, there is an identity to it. I can identify certain times and protocols, or the way I do things, is with a Māori lens. I have a lens that goes, okay, first step, second step. It's just a natural sort of sense of living. It's welcoming people, it's being hospitable to people, it's honouring people with their mana, so their dignity. In English, it's hard to put it into English, how we live this day to day. But if someone came around, we would offer them food and drink straight away. So the hospitable nature of our culture is about welcoming, making that connection with them, finding out how can we help them. It's a together community.
So you just said something interesting. You are basically straddling both worlds, which is the assimilated world and the Maori culture, and that there is a Maori lens that you can look through in terms of what you're doing at certain times, decisions you're making, situations that you're in. And there's like step 1, 2, 3. Curious, what are those step 1, 2, and 3?
When I start thinking about how I'm living, it is, one, how is this going to affect the person next to me, which is my family? Is it good for our family? And what happens if we choose to do that and rather than that? So I think it's quite a difficult question to answer because I don't realize I'm doing it. But again, I think it comes back to self versus community, and that's just an innate character that Māori culture and probably Indigenous culture have, where they're thinking about the community and the wider people.
So you're still learning Maori.
My mum and dad both spoke Māori whenever they could. They taught us our cultural dance, our kapahaka. So we learnt waiata, so singing songs, our poi actions and haka and all those things. But we also moved to Australia, and we were there for me 20 collective years. Australia's been really, really good to us. And we still continued our culture, but I think, we spoke mainly English, inside and outside of the house, of the home. And as an adult returning back to New Zealand, Aotearoa, it's something that I've been continuing to learn, but if you don't use it, you lose it.
I want to talk a little bit about, and you mentioned this, a few forms of visual expression. So haka, first of all. So for me personally, I feel like I became aware of Maori, that there was a Maori culture, and seeing haka at the Olympics recently as a form of protest in Parliament. It's something that stays with you because it's so strong and there's so much emotion into it. And so I think as a Maori artist, you're probably the best person to help explain this form of art and expression to us.
Haka is a form of Maori, or a life force. That's the expression that you're talking about, that it can express different things. So haka are composed of expressions and words that can mean different things depending on which haka, because you've got different haka. The most common one that people see outside of Aotearoa is kamate, and that's one around warfare and building up the energies of the person next to you, next to you, next to you, next to you. Can you imagine being prepared for war? And, that Maori, or that life force, which is very spine chilling, quite emotional, that they're ready to go, to die, to win as well, but also do it together. It is a chant that builds up their own inner life force to act. So that's the haka there. They are really, really important in our lives, in our tradition. That is where our languages come from. Some of the chants and some of the history, the storytelling through song, dance, and new waiata, new songs are being composed all the time.
Well, I love it. Every time I see it, I feel like crying.
It's wairua. Our spirits are being lifted, awoken, and it's very, very special. Yeah.
Okay, and then the second visual expression that I think, especially in the West, these are images that probably stay with people who don't know much about the culture initially, is I looked it up. I think it's called the Moko. Essentially, it's the markings. Can you tell us a little bit about the significance of that in your culture?
Yeah. Moko is a marking. I would say it is an English tattoo in that sense. But moko also is like a signature of who that person is. And it tells a story about their role in their family and their community. It also can determine their status, or traditionally it was a status within the community. Today, not so much. I have quite a few tāmoko. My husband has some tāmoko as well, and so do our sons. And for them, the tāmoko talks about their whakapapa and their iwi, their tribes, and goes all the way back to about 4 generations.
It sounds almost like a rite of passage.
Some people have talked about the rite of passage, but also their journey within their own identity. It's usually specific to that person, and it wouldn't be shared unless you speak to that person. So, yeah, I think it's such a beautiful marking, a beautiful way to storytell.
Oh, that's interesting. It's actually storytelling on your body. Yeah.
Absolutely, and it has been contemporized. Styles have evolved. Could tell you could tell designs from Gisborne, and you could tell designs from Waikato, they're quite different. They had different contours, different spirals, number of spirals and things like that on the pattern. So it's such a beautiful topic actually that needs more it needs more acknowledgement.
So you mentioned your sons. Do you think the younger generations are embracing their culture, or have you seen other outside influence, obviously media, technology, social media especially, changing it slightly?
Yeah, I think that really comes down to how our young people are being brought up, and if they have access or have been encouraged to understand who they are and where they come from. But I would say yes, our young people are thriving. If anything, we've had a resurgence of all sorts of things because of our young people. Kohanga reo, so preschools that only speak reo, our Māori language. So that goes back a few decades now, but it's still strong, and they're very knowledgeable about the history. That's due to kohanga reo, the schooling, which is separate to central government schooling, and it just keeps our own sovereignty, our own not control, but the ways that what we value in education and what we want to share with our young ones is within those spaces rather than mainstream.
If someone watches this and learns just one thing about Maori culture, what do you hope that is?
I'd love people to understand that our Māori culture is really connected to our land, water, to our natural resources, and that's where a lot of our stories and our language is coming from, because we take notice of what's happening to nature. And we can actually then identify what to do next. Whakawhanaungatanga basically means relationships with others. That's another thing that I think people see it anyway when they're surrounded by Māori culture.
So New Zealand sits in a pretty rare place in the world, surrounded by a lot of ocean, away from major population centers. Do you think that that distance has influenced a New Zealander's outlook on life?
Yeah, look, population. We're a small country, but also our population and land that's available. It's the abundance of resources, or used to be. It's not so much now, and maybe it is because we're so far away, but yet we're quite ahead in many ways. We can still access things and vice versa. But I do think that we are very unique. No one else speaks te reo Māori in the world, which is not a hindrance, because I think there's been some criticism around, oh, well, we're not going to teach Māori in schools because no one else uses it. That doesn't matter. That's probably the reason why you want to, is because this is so unique. There was one time, and I'm thinking this is what I was taught in schools, that Māori culture was going to die with the people, our language, and that's never happened. If anything, we've gotten stronger, and we'll continue to be strong with keeping our culture alive and our practices.
Do New Zealanders have a unique take or perspective in dealing with life's up and downs?
Some of the ups and downs, it's not dealt alone. You're not dealing it with alone. You actually have a community of people that support you. And it's usually, again, I suppose I can only speak for myself, but there are different communities that you can reach out to who are more than willing to support you and to help. But also it is a community focused mindset where you're not alone to figure it out yourself. There's solutions, and it usually comes back to what's best for our people, what's best for our future focused, and that's the direction that we go to.
What does a good life mean?
I think a good life is when we have positive relationships across your realm where people understand each other. And because if you don't understand each other, there's chaos, there's conflict. And when I say understand, it's literally understand. It doesn't mean you need to be that person. People are different. They need different things, but also they have different values and different knowledge that is still valuable if it's not the same as yours. Living in harmony with the people that you live with and live around, sharing the same lands. And that's one thing about our Māori culture, is that we do share, and we're very giving too much probably, but people have in the past have taken the lands, taken this, and it's about that control, greed, which I totally don't agree with. If we can all live in harmony and actually honour each other and the land around us, that I think would be better for it.
If you could choose one aspect of New Zealand life to share with the world, what would it be and why?
If I come back to our culture and the wairoa that exudes from it, like kapahaka, if you can be welcomed onto a marae or go to see, be in a place where they can offer deeper, meaningful conversations, not just the performance, but actually interacting with Māori. I think that I would love that. So if I think about going to another country, I want to be with the people, not stuck in a resort. I want to know their ways and how they think. I would do the same here, is to interact, find out, be curious. With that comes all the other stuff, like you'll notice the food is very different. It's being prepared differently. It's being resourced from nature. It's very natural. It's beautiful.
And since we mentioned travel a little bit, I do have a few travel related questions that you could probably answer better than any guidebook, but you kind of answered this one. For someone who has never visited New Zealand, like myself, what's the feeling or value that you want them to understand about the country?
Yeah, I think if you've never been here, know that every area is different, every region's different, it offers something different, but also Māori are different. You know, we can't just lump every Māori as one person, as a same. Everyone is different. And also Māori identify ourselves in family sub-tribes, which are called hapu. So one Māori down in Gisborne doesn't have the same ways perhaps as a Māori that lives up in Kaitaia up north, and same down south. So I think if you're new to Aotearoa, understand that the regions have sometimes different dialects, different speaking, the words slightly change. They have different ways around how they do things, slightly different ways. But just to know that, you know, we're all unique in our own beautiful way.
Are there specific do's or don'ts that you would point out for visitors in terms of respecting your culture and just New Zealand culture and New Zealand in general?
You know, I think if you're not sure what to do, the best thing to do is just listen, look, and follow the person who's leading you. So that's my best advice, is to still be curious, but ask the questions in the right time, and be open to learning another culture, open to hearing, and not thinking you know everything. It's putting your own knowledge aside for a minute. You can contribute to those conversations, but actually listen, learn, and follow.
What are some ways that tourists can win over the hearts of locals?
It's a no-brainer, just being respectful of who Māori are, that they're even acknowledged, which is one thing, and that Aotearoa, you know, that they are the Indigenous peoples of Aotearoa, and that we have a culture, we have a language, and even trying to say kia ora to one of us is amazing. Like, we think, yeah. So when people can actually just speak and say hello in our language, we go, yep, they're open. They're open to our language. They're open to our people. And just giving things a go, you know, eating our food. We love people who eat our food. We'll put food in front of you all the time.
You mentioned in the beginning, there's food that is cooked under the earth.
Yeah, hangi are basically foods, vegetables, meats and vegetables, packed up and packed in. Well, there's different ways of doing this, but it's basically cooked in a heated heated soil. There's a process. It's about 5 hours long. There's also contemporary ways of doing that now, but yeah, it's more around the mixture of the types of foods that are in there that brings out all the beautiful nutrients of those foods in that way. Yeah, so that's hangi. But we also love our kaimoana, which is our seafood. In some areas have an abundance of seafoods that we eat regularly. And a lot of people don't get to try seafood because they may not be living near water or have the foods that we have. But yeah, I think the part of our hospitality is around making sure people are comfortable. I'm trying to think of the whakatauki. A whakatauki basically is a saying or a proverb, and one of them talks about on our marae, that's our community houses. When you go on a marae, you have all these speeches to welcome the visitors, and then we eat. And the saying is saying that you have to have good food because no one will remember the speeches. They'll just remember the food. And if it's not good, that's what will be left in their mouth is a bad taste. So to that line, we talk about, hospitality, our food, our kai, and welcoming people. But yeah, if people can be in those spaces, that's fantastic. Take it on.
Before we go, I like to ask our guests to share just something small that for people watching or listening around the world, if they wanted a little bit of New Zealand or Maori culture in their home, something they could try.
I just think if you can attempt to speak our language with a phrase, one of them is kia pai te rā. Kia pai means good, and a good day. So basically wishing somebody a good day. So kia pai te rā or kia pai tō rā, which is you have a good day.
Kia pai te rā.
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. All right. Well, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and teaching us about your culture. It has been awesome to get to know actually about Maori culture from a Maori woman.
Kia ora, ngā mihi Vitra. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it and I'm happy to share.
And thank you to those of you watching or listening. Join me on my quest to speak with one woman from every country in the world at TBH with Vitra. We've got plenty more to explore. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind.